Welcome to Heartline Stories. Today's story follows a hardworking waitress who's just doing her job until one day a wealthy billionaire leaves his wallet behind to test her. You won't believe what happens next. How will Holly react to the unexpected challenge? Could this simple act change both their lives forever? Stay tuned to find out what surprises are in store for them. Let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe. One bright afternoon, a wealthy man named Daniel walked into a small diner in the heart of the city. He was a billionaire who owned several businesses, but he liked to keep his wealth hidden. Daniel often visited this diner for lunch because he enjoyed the simple food and peaceful atmosphere. When he entered, he was greeted by a young waitress named Holly. She had been working at the diner for a few months and was known for her friendly smile and helpful nature. She greeted him warmly and led him to a table by the window. Daniel sat down and placed his menu in front of him. As Holly left to get his drink, Daniel had an idea. He wanted to test how honest people really were. He took out his wallet, a thick leather one filled with money, credit cards, and a few important documents. Without thinking much, he placed it on the table beside his coffee cup and turned his attention to the menu. After a few minutes, he stood up, pretending to leave. He walked to the door but stayed just out of sight, hidden behind a corner where he could see everything. He watched Holly as she continued working. Holly walked past the table with another customer's order when she noticed the wallet. She stopped for a moment, looking at it carefully. She picked it up, holding it in her hands as she thought about what to do. There was a lot of money in it, and for a second, Holly thought about keeping it, but she quickly shook the thought away. "That's not right," she whispered to herself. Holly walked toward the back of the diner to talk to her manager. "Excuse me," she said. "I found this wallet on the table. It's not mine. I think someone left it behind." Her manager, Ms. Taylor, took the wallet from Holly. "Good job, Holly. Let's keep it safe for now. We'll check if anyone's missing a wallet." Holly went back to serving customers, but Daniel had seen everything from behind the corner. He was surprised by how honest Holly had been. He had expected her to be tempted by the money, but instead, she did the right thing. A few minutes later, Daniel walked back to the table, acting like he had just returned after leaving. Holly was still working when he sat down again. "Excuse me, ma'am," Daniel said as he waved Holly over. "I think I may have left something on the table." Holly smiled politely, and just as she was about to speak, Daniel continued. "I left my wallet on the table. Could you help me with it?" Holly blinked, confused. "Wait, you're the owner of that wallet?" she asked, her eyes widening. Daniel nodded. "Yes, I'm the one who left it. I did it on purpose to see what you would do. I wanted to test your honesty." Holly's face turned red with surprise. She was embarrassed but stood her ground. "I just did what I thought was right. You should always return something that doesn't belong to you," she said softly. Daniel smiled. He was more impressed than ever with her honesty. "You're a very honest person, Holly," he said, his voice warm. "I admire that. I want to offer you a job." Holly was taken aback. "A job? What kind of job?" "I own a company," Daniel explained. "I've been looking for someone with integrity, and I think you're the right person. I want to offer you a position working with me." Holly felt a rush of excitement and nerves. "But why me? I'm just a waitress." Daniel chuckled. "It's not about where you work, Holly. It's about who you are. I could tell that you have great character, and that's what I need." Holly stood there stunned. She had always dreamed of something more, but she never imagined that a simple act of honesty would change her life so quickly. "Wow, I don't know what to say," Holly said, her voice shaking with disbelief. Daniel smiled warmly. "You don't have to say anything right now. Think about it. But I believe you're exactly what I need." Holly was still in shock, but she knew one thing for sure. Her life was about to change forever. Holly stood there, unsure of what to say next. She had been working at the diner for so long, and now here was a billionaire offering her a job in his company. It all felt so unreal. "Are you sure?" Holly asked, her voice trembling a little. "I mean, I've never worked in a business before. I don't have much experience in anything besides serving tables." Daniel smiled again, his eyes kind and reassuring. "It's not about experience, Holly. It's about your values and how you handle situations. I need someone who can make the right choices, just like you did today." Holly blinked. The idea of leaving the diner, where she'd been comfortable for years, was scary. but the chance to do something bigger, to learn and grow, was too good to ignore. "I'll think about it," she said. "I need to talk to my family first." "That's a smart decision," Daniel agreed. "Take your time, but don't wait too long. This is a great opportunity." As the day went on, Holly couldn't stop thinking about the offer. She had always dreamed of a better life, but she never thought it would come to her like this. Would she leave everything she knew behind to work for a billionaire? What if she failed? But as the hours passed, Holly remembered something her grandmother had told her. Sometimes the biggest risks bring the greatest rewards. She decided to take a leap of faith. That evening, after finishing her shift, she went home and told her mom and younger brother about the offer. They were shocked at first, but also excited. Her mom said, "Holly, this could be your big break. You're smart, and I know you'll make it work." The next morning, Holly called Daniel and told him she was ready to give it a try. Daniel was thrilled. "Great. I'll have my assistant send you all the details. Welcome to the team, Holly." As the days passed, Holly started her new role at Daniel's company. It was nothing like what she had imagined, but she quickly learned. She worked hard, made new friends, and started gaining the trust of the people around her. One afternoon, as she was finishing a project, Daniel called her into his office. "Holly, I've been watching you," he said with a smile. "You've done a fantastic job. I'm really impressed with how quickly you've adapted." Holly blushed, not expecting such high praise. "Thank you, Mr. Daniels. I'm just doing my best." "You're doing more than that," Daniel replied. "I think you're ready for the next step. I want to offer you a promotion. How would you like to be my personal assistant?" Holly's heart skipped a beat. A personal assistant? That was the kind of job she had always dreamed of. I, I'd love that," she exclaimed. Daniel nodded, smiling. "I knew you would. You've earned it. I'm excited to see where you go from here." Holly couldn't believe it. From a waitress at a small diner to Daniel's personal assistant in just a few short months. It felt like a dream come true. But deep down, she knew one thing for sure. It was her honesty and hard work that had gotten her here, and she wouldn't let anything stop her from reaching even greater heights. Little did Holly know, this was just the beginning of an even more incredible adventure. As Holly settled into her new role as Daniel's personal assistant, she quickly realized how much responsibility it came with. She was handling important tasks, setting meetings, and even managing Daniel's calendar. Each day brought new challenges, but Holly was determined to prove herself. One evening, as she was working late in the office, Daniel stopped by her desk. "Holly, I need to talk to you about something important," he said. His tone was serious. Holly's heart raced. "What's going on, Mr. Daniels?" "We have a major project coming up, and I want you to lead it. It's a big opportunity, and I trust you to handle it," Daniel explained. Holly's eyes widened. Lead the project? She had never imagined herself in that position. She was still getting used to her new role. And now this? "But I'm not sure if I'm ready," she admitted. Daniel smiled, his eyes warm. "You've shown more than enough potential, Holly. I believe in you. This project will help you grow, and I know you're capable." Holly took a deep breath. This was her chance to prove herself even more, to take on something bigger than she ever thought possible. "Okay, I'll do it. I won't let you down." Over the next few weeks, Holly threw herself into the project. She worked long hours, coordinated with different teams, and learned so much. It was tough, but she was determined to succeed. Along the way, she got to know more about Daniel, the pressures he faced as a billionaire, and the challenges that came with running a massive company. One evening after a particularly difficult meeting, Daniel called Holly into his office again. This time, he seemed a bit more relaxed. "Holly, you've done an incredible job with the project so far. You've really proven yourself. I knew I made the right choice bringing you on board." Holly smiled, though she was still feeling a bit nervous. "Thank you, Mr. Daniels. I've learned a lot, but there's still so much more I want to do." "I have no doubt you'll do amazing things," Daniel said, his voice softening. "And if I'm being honest, I'm really glad we crossed paths. You're more than just an assistant to me, Holly. You've become someone I admire." Holly blinked, surprised by his words. She had always seen Daniel as her boss, someone she respected, but hearing this made her feel something different. Was he saying he admired her? And did she feel the same? Before she could respond, Daniel cleared his throat. I know this is all a bit sudden, but I'd like to get to know you better. Outside of work, I mean. Holly's heart skipped a beat. Was this a date? Or was he just being friendly? I, I'd like that too, Holly replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Daniel smiled, and there was something different in his eyes now, a warmth that she hadn't noticed before. Over the next few days, Holly and Daniel spent more time together outside of work. They went for walks, had lunch, and even went to the movies. It was clear that their bond was growing stronger, and the lines between work and personal life were starting to blur. Holly was beginning to realize that what had started as a professional relationship was turning into something more. But she also knew things weren't always that simple. Daniel was a billionaire, and she was just a small-town girl who had never expected anything like this to happen. Would their relationship work? Would it change everything for both of them? One night, as they sat in a quiet restaurant, Daniel looked at her seriously. Holly, I need to ask you something. Holly's heart raced. What is it? Are you happy with how things are going? Daniel asked, his gaze steady. I know this is all new to you, and I don't want to rush anything, but I don't want to lose you either. Holly took a deep breath. She had to think carefully about her answer. She had never expected to be in this situation, but one thing was clear. She had never felt more alive than she did with Daniel. I'm happy, Holly said softly. I'm happy because I've learned so much, and I feel like I'm becoming the person I always wanted to be. And I'm happy because I've found something special with you. Daniel's face softened, and he reached out to take her hand across the table. Holly, I want you to know that I'm not just offering you this job because of your skills. I'm offering you this because I believe in you, and I care about you. Holly's heart fluttered. She had always respected Daniel, but now she was beginning to see a different side of him. And maybe, just maybe, she was falling for him too. Holly sat there for a moment, her hand in Daniel's, feeling a mix of emotions. His words had hit her deeply. She had never expected to be in this situation, to have a powerful man like Daniel care about her in this way. But she also knew the world they lived in was complicated. He was a billionaire, and she was just starting out. Could this really work? She finally pulled her hand away, looking down at her plate. Daniel, I don't know if I'm ready for all of this, she said quietly. Daniel leaned in closer, his voice soft but firm. What do you mean? I mean, it's not just about us, she said, glancing up at him. It's about the life you lead, the kind of world you're in. I don't know if I can fit into that. Daniel's face darkened slightly, but he didn't seem angry. You think I'm asking you to change who you are? He asked, his tone almost a little hurt. No, she said quickly, shaking her head. It's just that I don't know if I can keep up. I've spent my whole life working hard for every little thing. You have everything, and that's a world I don't really know. I don't want to drag you down. Daniel stared at her for a long moment, as if weighing her words. Then he reached across the table and gently lifted her chin, making her look him in the eyes. Holly, he said softly, I'm not asking you to fit into my world. I'm asking you to be with me, to be yourself. That's all I want. His words sent a wave of warmth through Holly. She had never heard anyone speak to her this way before. She had spent so much of her life doubting herself, wondering if she was good enough for anything beyond her small town. But here was Daniel, someone who seemed to have everything, telling her that she was more than enough. Still, Holly hesitated. But what about the pressure? What about everything that comes with your world? Daniel smiled slightly. I can't promise everything will be perfect, but I can promise you won't be alone in it. We'll figure it out together. Holly's heart raced. It wasn't perfect, but maybe it didn't have to be. Maybe the two of them could make it work. I want to try, she said finally, her voice filled with uncertainty but also hope. Daniel's eyes lit up, and for the first time in a while, Holly saw the real joy in his face. Then that's all that matters. We'll take it one step at a time, together. As they finished their meal, Holly couldn't help but think about how much her life had changed in such a short time. She had come from a small town, living a simple life, and now she was sitting across from one of the most successful men in the country. And yet, despite all the wealth and fame that surrounded him, he cared for her, not for what she could give him, but for who she was. After dinner, Daniel offered to drive Holly home. As they walked out of the restaurant, the evening air felt cooler than usual, but there was a sense of warmth between them. The car ride was quiet, but neither of them seemed uncomfortable. It was as if they were both still processing the conversation they had just had. When they arrived at Holly's apartment, Daniel stopped the car but didn't immediately get out. He turned to her, his expression thoughtful. "Holly," he said, "I want you to know that no matter what happens, I'm here for you. You don't have to carry any weight on your own." Holly smiled softly, feeling a mixture of gratitude and confusion. She had always been so independent, but now she was starting to feel like she wasn't alone anymore. "Thank you, Daniel. That means more to me than you know," she replied. Before she could get out of the car, Daniel reached out and gently touched her arm. "I'll see you tomorrow, Holly," he said, his voice low and sincere. She nodded, stepping out of the car. As she walked to her door, she turned back to see Daniel still sitting in the car, watching her. She felt a flutter in her chest as she waved goodbye. That night, Holly lay in bed, unable to stop thinking about everything that had happened. She couldn't deny the way she felt about Daniel, but there were still so many questions, so many uncertainties. Could they really make it work? Was she ready for the life he offered? The next morning, Holly woke up early, her mind still racing. She had to focus on work. There was no time to dwell on personal matters. She had a meeting to prepare for, and she couldn't afford to lose sight of her goals. But as the day went on, Holly found herself thinking about Daniel more and more. She wondered what he was doing, what he was thinking. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to this connection than she had initially realized. Holly spent the next few days trying to focus on her work, but Daniel was always on her mind. Every time she checked her phone, she couldn't help but wonder if he was trying to reach out. She knew she couldn't keep avoiding him forever. Finally, she decided to send him a text. It felt like a big step, but she had to know if what they shared was real. She typed out a simple message. "Hey, I've been thinking. I want to talk. Can we meet up?" Almost instantly, Daniel replied, "Of course. I'll pick you up tonight at 7." That evening, Daniel arrived at her apartment right on time, his smile as warm as ever. He didn't seem nervous or worried, which made Holly feel a little more at ease. As they drove to a nearby park, Holly took a deep breath. She knew she had to be honest with him. "Daniel," she started, looking at him carefully, "I've been thinking a lot about us. I don't want to jump into something I'm not ready for, but I also can't deny what I feel when I'm with you." Daniel reached over, placing his hand on hers. "Holly, I don't expect anything from you, but I also don't want to lose what we have. We'll go at your pace, okay?" Holly felt a weight lift off her chest. She didn't have to rush into anything. This wasn't about wealth, status, or anything other than the connection they shared. As they sat together, talking under the stars, Holly realized that sometimes love wasn't about the grand gestures or fairy tale endings. It was about two people taking the time to understand each other and growing together, no matter where they started from. For the first time in a long time, Holly felt truly happy, not because of what she had, but because of the love she had found, not in wealth or luxury, but in the trust and honesty between two people willing to take a chance on each other. And from that night on, Holly and Daniel took things one day at a time. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time that didn't seem so scary. Together they would face whatever came next, one step at a time. And maybe that was all they needed to make it work. Thank you for joining us on this Heartline story. A simple act of honesty can change everything. What do you think Holly's future will look like? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.